Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the press reaching you from KAFTAN's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now we'll go straight to analyzing the stories that we read out to you. Our phone lines are now open. You can call in to make your contributions, ask your questions, but remember, 1 minute to every caller, and please turn down the volume of your TV set before you make that call. Our guest on the show today is Rotimi Johnson, who is a public affairs analyst. Great to have you on the show this morning.
Good morning, Annabel.
Good to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Great. All right, there are quite a number of stories, but let's see how we can manage the next 30 to 35 minutes of our time. And we'll start with all of the news headlines this morning, talking about the bombing that happened in Kaduna and how the Senate have decided to release their December salary. In fact, most of the newspapers captioned it as senators released their first news says 109 senators donate December salaries to Kaduna aero bombing victims, and another stories are still saying the same thing. But then, when you, in my own, I said I was going to ask: is it 109 million naira? Is it 1 million per senator? Or because the caption was their December salary, so we should be expecting all their December salary. I'm sure that's what most Nigerians are expecting. But that's an aside. Then I listened to the chief of army staff yesterday, where he talked about how it was just an error. It was an avoidable error. Yes, that was the word he used. It was an avoidable error. And then he stated that we should not blame the military so much, so that next time they don't feel their morale is not dropped for them not to do what they're supposed to do if Nigerians keep blaming them. And then also you have some people who have termed this as a religious or ethno war. What are your thoughts in all of this? Just putting all of them together.
Well, let me start with this 109 million from 109 senators. You know, when I heard that, the first thing that came to my mind is that inclusive of senators from Kaduna State? Is that inclusive of senators from that particular senatorial district? You know, then that gesture, which is a good gesture, because that's not the first aero bombing in Nigeria, but this is the first time the Senate as an entity is donating. But if 109 to over, we have mortalities of over about 55 and several in hospital. There's what we call permanent damages. You know, so what is that? 1 million from each senator. Are you saying that their salaries are 1 million per month? You know, then what is the value of life? You know, the gesture was good but poorly executed, and they have used propaganda and, you know, this Nigerian factor, trying, you know, clever by half. They have used it to destroy the credibility of that gesture.
Oh wow, that's coming from the same senators that were sending prayers to emails. Yes,
you know, for their enjoyment, you know, millions for their enjoyment, and so that sacrifice, that donation cannot come under the category of sacrifice from the senators. So that aside, then we talk about this ethno and tribal angle to it. I am against that, because souls are souls, you know, irrespective of where they are or what they worship. They are Nigerians, and that's the most important thing, because the Nigerian state has killed Nigerians in error. So as much as I pity the Nigeria Army and the Chief of Staff, I had his speech too, but it can't stop us from condemning this error, because there is no how these lives can be brought back to life. And these people, the victims now, their families, they are in serious agony. They have lost, some of them will be breadwinners, some of them have great futures. They have lost, you know, some of them could have been member House of Representatives, State House of Assembly members. They have lost so many people that are dear to them. So we can't but, you know, feel what they are feeling, and we can't but, you know, condemn this kind of error, because it has happened in the past and nothing came out of it. But this time around, we have to probe further, and it's because of the uproar that the Senate are trying to play to the gallery this time.
No.
Because this is not the first time it's happening. But this time around, there is a kind of uproar that has greeted it. Because this is not issue of we wanted to bomb terrorists enclave, and it means really, you know, in Nigeria we have bombed, you know, IDP before. In Nigeria we have bombed IDP before. So this time around, I think we need to probe further. Who are the pilots? Who are the officers that made these mistakes? Were they in the right frame of mind? Were there ulterior motive? We have to probe further. Because who says there can be error bombing on Louis Edes building? Who says there can be error bombing on Aso Villa or National Assembly? So if we don't probe further, then something more disastrous can still happen. So to serve as a deterrent, not really calling about call martial now, because we need to even investigate and probe further. Because these are precious souls of Nigerians massacred by Nigeria. Army.
Now, talking about probing further, I don't know, for some reasons, the talk of probing it further, really trying to get to the root of the incident, it has not been as loud as it should be. Do you think it's a deliberate act from the defense headquarters? That's one. Then, secondly, if we look at it more holistically, we would get to find out that the Nigerian military, as an organization, they cannot carry out some kind of they cannot launch some kind of attacks without proper intelligence. Is that to say that the intelligence they've gathered prior to that bombing, is that to say that's how deep they could go with their intelligence to the point of dropping bombs on citizens, on innocent citizens who were celebrating the Maulud in their local settlement? So, and if there's going to be a probe, do you think the defense headquarters should be allowed to probe itself on this very issue?
Thank you, Francis. I've not been in the military before, but I'm a lover of action movies, and I like to follow intelligence, movies a lot. And one of the things I've learned from studying what happens between Pentagon and the White House is that for such there will be probing, internal probing. They will do a kind of debriefing of the officers involved. And in this kind of case, what will go into the investigation is what made the error look like real. Suppose you were supposed to bomb Kantape. What now made it look like Kubwa, where the error happened from the area view? That's one. Two, you also look at the officers. What were the frame of mind? They will investigate and even find out if they are married, what were the situation with their spouses. What could have psychologically impacted such error? That's what we are talking about. It's not the issue of religion now. In the military operation itself, is there anywhere in Kaduna that was even meant for bombing? That's the issue. Is there anywhere in Kaduna or close to that area that was meant for bombing that will now say, okay, you released the missile, a few minutes or a few seconds before, that's what we're talking about now. So what made it look like where you should bomb? Then who are these officers? What was the rules of engagement for that particular operation? Because you will not load missile into the craft unless it is to be used. So those are the things we're talking about. So when you now go about the officers, they have their own way of probing. They will sit down and probe these things. That's when they know, okay, unfortunately, we discovered that a terrorist has sneaked into the rank and file and it's being dealt with. Because if, there are extremists everywhere, we can't deny that. But if you don't probe, and know what actually went into this and why this error happened. And you are just begging us so that others no, it won't work that way. Because it's when you probe, you know what really happened, and then you can prevent reoccurrence. You know, in Nigeria we are so good at, you know, sweeping things under carpet, and that's why we have a lot of white papers and black papers, and there were no execution, there were no follow-up. That's why I said, as much as I pitied the chief of army staff, because it's not a good time to be in such seats, but it doesn't change the fact that as Nigerians we have the responsibility to keep talking, because it could be anywhere. It could be a motor park. It could be anywhere, because if such error will happen, what makes anywhere in Kaduna South, you know, look like where should be bombed?
But then don't you think allowing the military, we all know about the court martialing in the military.
Let's quickly take this call before we go ahead. Hello, good morning. Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning, Elder Zion from Jos.
Thank you very much. How was your weekend?
Very well, thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, it is worrisome, very disheartening to hear again that foreign investors are leaving Nigeria. Other countries, we have been on this for long. We have been pleading with the government to look inwards into how Nigerians themselves will start investing in Nigeria. To look inwards about their own economy and develop it. You see, you don't go out always begging people to come and invest in your country. Ordinarily, naturally, when the atmosphere is conducive for investment, people will come begging you to invest in your country, not you going to them. I don't know. Look, for example now, as one country, Nigerians are suffering. This is Christmas. Some of us that are in business, our business are folding up. People are not patronizing us because there is no money. That's why, personally, I've been calling on government to invest in agriculture. Within a short time now, the rain will be coming. Nigeria is in emergency to get food on their table. Nigeria is in emergency to have money and attend to other domestic needs.
All right.
It's an emergency situation that requires very few months to grow. Grow agriculture, put food on the table, and they ease out pressure.
All right. Thank you so much, Elder Zion.
Thank you very much. And God bless you. Bless our Analyst for today. And all of you. In Jesus' name.
Amen. God bless you too, Elder Zion. Thank you so much for that. All right, let's land on this one so we can go straight to what the story is.
So, like I was saying, can a man be a judge in his own case? Because this is a national issue right now. Should the military be allowed to probe itself?
The judge and the jury. So you're going to take that, but then also on the side, we'd like you to take them together before we leave this story. Looking at the fact that the former governor, that's El Rufai, also talked about this massive bombardment of terrorist enclaves, and at some point he withdrew on it because he talked about how much when later on it would create some kind of probing from ICC, that's International Criminal Court, and that's why at some point he decided to lean back. So why all of a sudden this one now happened?
Well, if it's terrorist enclave, then bombing is appropriate. But, you know, on what Francis asked, you know, the military has internal mechanism, you know, to deal with such. And as a military personnel, you know, you are not to be released for the normal trial until the military trial, which they call court martial, is done. So if there is a need for civil trial, they transfer to the, so it is normal all over the world for such occurrence, because they understand the workings and the rules of engagement better than the normal court. So they will treat it, so they know how in your operations you have gone outside the rules of engagement. So it is after that we can now be discussing maybe such fellows should be released for another trial. But the military, they have internal mechanism to handle such, and we should allow them. What we're just saying is they should be sincere with Nigerians. They should not cover up, because there will be cover up if those ones, you know, they played to instruction. You know, military, they follow and obey instructions. If they have obeyed instructions in that error bombing, there will be cover up. But it was truly an error, there will be court martial. They will want to know why such an error happened.
All right, then let's move straight to other stories this morning. And the Guardian newspaper says asset declaration 6 months on, Tinubu's net worth unknown, coming from CSOs. I'd like you to take that also, first two questions, and I'd like you to take them together. And then on the flip side, you have on Nature News says fossil fuel phase out stirring up controversy at COP28 in Dubai. And I'm going to ask you, why do you think it's stirring up reactions on and off social media space?
The COP28, you know, is laughable. You know, I had, you know, Francis comment before the analysis started, you know, and I sort of agree with him that, you know, the conference was more like, you know, in Yoruba land, they will say, "Kema le rowomi," know that we, so that you will say that we have not organized this conference, because the host, you know, they get their resources. No, not Dubai now. I'm talking about the Arabian, the Middle East generally. You know, they rely largely on fuel, on crude. Yes, you know, fossil fuel. Then Nigeria to participation, you know, till now, you know, oil is still our major export source of revenue. But as laughable as it may sound, you know, it's also giving us an inclination that very soon this phase of fossil fuel is going to fizzle out.
Do you really see that happening, especially in Nigeria? Because we're also talking about electricity, and then so I talked to a particular electricity person, and then he said we can never leave national grid. So can we ever leave fossil fuel?
We can leave fossil fuel, because even in the news that you read, that is it Rwanda bought 100 buses, electric buses. It's starting. You know, it may take time before Nigeria will, but it's starting. Because when you're talking about, you know, carbon emissions, you know, safer society, you know, environment and all these things, then you also look at how consistent have we been in this supply. Even to host Nigerians. Annabel, be sincere, if I give you electric car, won't you prefer it?
But then you also understand that it's not only for vehicles. We're not talking about vehicles alone. We're talking about manufacturing.
That is,
and others.
It is in vehicles that you expend fuel most all over the world. It's in the vehicles. But when you are talking about electricity now, to leave the national grid because of the legal encumbrances, it might be difficult. But everyone is trying to think out of the box. You're talking about the national grid. How many of these companies that are exiting Nigeria actually rely on the national grid? Many of them, they rely heavily on diesel. Even those who are on national grid, they had to buy their own transformer, do a lot of things, and even unofficially they even take care of the staff of the distribution companies so that they will be more favored. You understand? So you look at it, if they find any alternative, they will run for it, they will go for it. So as much as the whole world is concerned, when the noise comes, because in the world I've seen that before you have any transmission from one thing to the other, it starts with conferences like this, the talks, before you know what is happening. But what we should be talking about in Nigeria is how prepared are we for that time when the whole world will start moving away from fossil fuel.
So are you saying the COP28 was not just all talks?
It's beginning. It's beginning, because everybody is like looking at it now. That's how it started when this whole thing about climate change started. You know, you're like, what is climate change? Say, what is happening? You know, they are starting, and some of these countries, after this conference, they will start sitting down, putting plans in place. It might be 20-year plan, you know, vision, how they will gradually exit and change their revenue source. But how prepared is this country, Nigeria? We are so blessed. Nigeria is the most blessed country in the whole world. I can prove that. But how prepared are we? Because as blessed as we are, our people are suffering. Our leaders are living fat. But the people are suffering.
All right, let's quickly take this call before we go ahead. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, beautiful morning to you, Annabel, Mr. Francis. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning, SMD from Lagos or Kano today?
From Lagos.
Yeah, SMB is calling you from Kano today.
Oh, great. Great to hear from you, SMD.
Immediately, you want to introduce your guest. The power holding company routine activities proceed. Before I on my gen, I never know how you introduce him. I never see his name. I'm sorry for that, sir. Beautiful morning to you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Because this power holding company issue, I take it as a routine, whether you like it or not. As far as you are in Nigeria, you have to bear with it. We are not ready for it. Let me quickly respond to what your guest was saying. I was opportune to be in Malay sometimes back, so I use my time to ask one of the doctors there who is a professional in terms of engineering and so on and so forth. I tell him, tell me about blackouts in this country. You know what he told me? He said, look, at that time he said somebody of 22 years will never experience blackout until he reached 40 years. I said, what happened? He said, let me give you very good example. When you are on gen in your home, then electricity power come. What do? I said, I switch off, I change over. He said, that is exactly where a 40-year-old somebody will witness blackout in Malay as of that time.
Wow.
Imagine.
Oh, wow.
I don't know whether you understand what I mean, Annabel.
Yes, I do.
That is, they are switching from that old system to a new system. I don't know whether we are ready for that. Now, let me quickly respond to this issue of Senate donate 1 million naira. Please, Annabel, I beg you in the name of Almighty Allah, Mr. Francis, I beg you in the name of Lord, let us not set salary, even though you are not the sayer, you are quoting from the papers. Let it not be salary. I could remember 2018, Sheikh Husani, a former senator, said these people were earning 13.5 as a monthly salary. This student breed we are talking about, do you know they lack the whole social amenities? They have no road, no access to roads, no water supply, no light, no school, no health, nothing, absolutely nothing. And we are into democratic era. Does that mean that these people unintentionally sacrifice their people to benefit from the dividends of democracy? If that should be the case, let me hope and pray the Nigerian government, the Kaduna state government will do something, I mean something meaningful to make sure that between January and June, these social amenities has been there.
All right.
Please, that is my begging, and please, let us not set this 1 million salary. No. If we want to appreciate them, let them give out that at least 10 million each or 20 million or that 13 million they were getting. Thank you very much. I'm from Kano. I wish you all the best. Your guest, I really appreciate his thoughts and I really respect you for that. Thank you very much, sir. I wish you all the best. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, SMD from Lagos. Always glad to hear from you. Okay, let's move over to all the stories. Our time is fast spent. The Nation newspaper, in fact, all of the newspapers this morning is talking about cash flight persists in banks, and then says don't do panic withdrawal coming from CBN. But then when you go to the bank, before now they give you 50,000, and then later they draw it down to 20,000 and then 10,000. But now it looks like just 5,000. At some point, maybe we'll start getting urgent 2Ks. So are we going back again to the era of cash scarcity, despite the fact that the CBN is saying don't do panic buying, just like NNPC will always say don't do panic buying when you're buying fuel?
Well, I'm not sure this is prevalent all over Nigeria, because till last week when I was in the southwest, there was nothing like, scarcity of cash yet.
But don't you think it's just shifting? Same way you hear fuel, they tell you, oh, in Lagos we have.
So that's what I'm saying, that maybe it's just starting and it will gradually creep into the other regions of the country. But since the CBN said, because I don't see any justification for it, absolutely nothing to justify this scarcity of cash. But in Nigeria, you can't. Anything is possible, like they say. Before you know what is happening, there are some other things under a Yoruba hadith that says that the leaves that are dancing on top of the pond, that there is a drama. There's a drama underneath. Before you know what is happening, you know that there are some errors that have been happening in our physical and economic policies that is causing us to have this problem. And like Francis said earlier, so why is it that it is always around this festive period that you always have this kind of painful scarcities? But I hope the CBN quickly get on top of the matter and nip it in the bud, because if that is not done, it's going to greatly inflict more hardship on Nigerians. And the suffering presently, like the Vice President said yesterday at a program, that Nigerians are not happy with government officials. That is an understatement. That is an understatement. Nigerians are very, very, very angry
with the government officials,
because they see them live big while they are so impoverished.
All right, now our time is fast spent, but I just want us to talk about this in 2 minutes. I want us to talk about the Dangote refinery that has taken its first delivery of the crude oil, and according to reports, it's ready to start distributing in January. What are your projections for the Dangote refinery, and what changes in particular do you see it bringing to the Nigerian economy? Because I was listening to an interview by the group managing director of the NNPC, Mele Kyari. He said the Dangote refinery and the other refineries that are undergoing turnaround, maintenance and renovation right now, that they will not necessarily have an impact on the prices of PMS. Then, to what end?
And then there's a statement that he made, I also saw, says a refinery is not created to reduce petrol price.
Well, I'm not surprised, because Dangote refinery is still a private organization, not a public firm. So Dangote is not going into refinery business because it loves oil so much, or because it loves Nigeria so much. It's into it because it wants to make profits. That's fundamental. And if you look at it that way, it will want to sell at prevailing prices. And I always tell people that they should not be too excited, because Dangote has other lines of productions apart from refinery. To what extent are the prices so cheap? So if you look at it from that angle, you know that when you're talking about Dangote refinery, it's just good that it might help our exchange rate, but not necessarily the cost of fuel. And if the cost of fuel doesn't come down, Nigerians are still going to remain, you know, in this set of afflictions that we have been in. So that is...
How about supply?
The supply mechanism may improve, but if the supply mechanism, because what goes into the cost of fuel is not just about the availability of the fuel itself. It is about what they call equalization to goes into the cost. So you find out that maybe some of us in the southwest or the southern Nigeria may even sigh for relief for the availability. But in Nigeria, we have seen something that it can be available but not cheap.
But not cheap. So
You
it's one
understand?
thing to be available.
So the availability is what the refineries will guarantee. That because the refinery as a private organization now want to do everything possible to push out their products and sell. So it will be very, very much available. But talking about
affordability,
the price coming down, please forget that.
Okay, so let's see if we can take our last story, even though we have so many callers. See if we can take, okay, let's take this last call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, KAFTAN. Good morning.
Good morning
to you.
Tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Yeah, I'm Sachi. Thank you for picking my call this morning.
Go ahead. You have less than 1 minute.
Please, I want to contribute about what happened in Kaduna, the minute.
Go ahead, please. Are you there, Fortune?
Hello.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'm there. Yeah. Please, I don't think what our military did in Kaduna, I don't think it's totally wrong the way we are trying. You know, throwing the baby with bathwater will not be good at this point. What is happening in Nigeria is that we have a lot of cabals that are backing all these terrorists. This place that was bombed is a clear terrorist sympathizing, environment, and they shoot these people. So I don't think that our military will be that so daft. They must have gathered intelligence enough before they embark in what they did. So some of the clerics that are coming to give it religious coloration and all of that are just terrorist sympathizers as well. And I don't think probing the army, because if we keep on bashing the army like this, we'll never win this war against terrorism.
Thank you so much, Fortune. We have to let you go.
These people.
Thank you so much. We have to let you go. Well, our time is fast spent. Time is never our friend, especially when we're talking about this kind of matters. Thank you so much, Rotimi Johnson, Public Affairs Analyst, for having this discussion with us this morning.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, viewers, that's where we end this program for today. We're so sorry we can't take social media, but most definitely we will take social media. And if we were not able to pick your call, I promise you we will pick your call tomorrow, because we do not take your calls or your viewership for granted. I'll see you again tomorrow. My name is Annabel Orji.
And I am Francis Adeniyi. Do have a beautiful day ahead.